introducing Tim Kellis, who is a renowned Wall Street analyst and the founder of HappyRelationship.com. He's also the author of Equality, The Quest for the Happy Marriage. Through personal tragedy and a successful professional career, Tim finally solved the marriage problem by addressing relationships and marriage mentally for the first time in history. Tim's approach refutes hundreds of years of psychological industry belief that men and women are driven by their biological desires by incorporating conventional beliefs of the spiritual community such as transformation, healing, and letting go of past traumatic experiences that hinder individuals and couples from achieving their true potential. Tim Kellis has appeared on NBC, CBS, ABC, PBS, and even Lifetime Television, and including the press and the media. I'm so excited that he's here today. With that, let's welcome relationship expert Tim Kellis.
Thank you very much, Shannon. I appreciate that. What a most gracious introduction. Let me get started this way. If you could envision for me, for a moment, and this is a new thought process, so please embrace this if you could, but that marriage that you've always dreamt of, that relationship that you thought you would have before you met the person of your dreams, if you could envision your wedding day is not the beginning of the end, but the beginning of the rest of your life. I am Tim Kellis, and I am here to present real solutions to real relationships. I'm a relationship expert, and I want to thank you for your time for coming to listen to what I believe is a very significant topic of conversation today. Before I get started, would it be okay if I shared with you the reason why I'm so passionate about this subject?
Yes.
Would that be okay?
Yes.
My parents just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary.
Yoo-hoo.
That's a great initial thought, except for the fact that it was a very, very stormy relationship their whole life. They fought the entire time. In fact, at the early part of their marriage, my dad was actually physically abusive with my mom. They still have a mirror in their bedroom that was cracked from a time when we were kids. We used to hide in the basement. And the most traumatic experience that ever happened to me during my childhood was my dad talking on the phone with my mom after she'd already left. She was divorcing him. She was gone. She had made up her mind, and my dad was begging for her to come back, and he collapsed in front of us. My older brother was gone. There were 4 siblings. The oldest was gone. My little sister, Daddy's little girl, she ran and jumped on my dad. My little brother ran next door to get the neighbors. I called 911, and my mom returned. She actually came back. She reconciled with my dad, and they're still together to this day. They're still fighting to this day, but they're still together to this day. Before I do get started with the presentation, though, I'd like to make sure that we're all in sync. So I'd like to ask if it would be okay. I'm committed to presenting to you guys, so I wouldn't mind. I hope you don't mind if I ask you guys to give me some agreements to participate in this presentation. The first agreement, if it would be okay to ask if you all were 100% present.
Yes.
I mean, no cell phones. Please try and block out the dinner plans tonight and all the other issues that you may be thinking about. Secondly, the topic I cover can be contentious. So if you don't mind, would you please spread your arms out? And I would like to ask you to please be open to this presentation. Can you shake your head yes to that? Can you please be open to the presentation?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thirdly, if you don't mind, I'd like to set this up as a judgment-free zone. If I bring up a topic that is maybe contentious, could we maybe keep our judgments outside, if that would be okay? Is that okay? Can I have agreement on that?
Yes.
And then finally, I'd like to think that I could present in this short period of time enough information to solve your marriage problems, but unfortunately that's not the case. So I'd like to ask the ability to be able to offer you at the end of this presentation a way to continue learning with me. And would that be okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I want to go through three things today. The first thing I want to go through is the psychology of marriage. The second thing I want to go through is why. Why is it that we're supposed to have a marriage for life? And the third thing I'd like to present to you is a poem, very, very touching poem to me, that sums up my project. So before we get started, though, I'd like to ask, or I'd like to let you know what the basic premise is of my message and my presentation, and that's the notion of whether or not we develop. As it turns out, that's a huge question that's been debated for thousands of years on whether we as individuals develop or not. And let me give you a point, let me give you a question to demonstrate my point. Can I have a show of hands of those in the audience that think that you're here in a biological state, your existence as an individual is a biologically driven state only? Can I see a show of hands for people that believe that? Okay. And then the second question is, can I see a show of hands that people that believe that obviously they have their biological drives, hunger, other things that they do biologically, but they're also human beings. You have a state of mind, you have an existence, you're here realizing yourself, you know yourself. Can I see the show of hands for people that believe that they're both biological and psychological? Well, believe it or not, that question is answered today, 100 years later, that we are nothing but biological animals. That's the way the psychology industry still believes in their fundamental belief of us. In fact, we still drug people in a biological approach to the psychology industry. Pharmacology drugs are the #1 prescribed drug in this country. And that's still because the psychological industry's belief that we're nothing but animals. We're test threats for the psychology industry. I saw a show the other day demonstrating the influence of our anxieties on our body, and they were studying baboons to demonstrate that point. And how that translates today to us in marriage therapy is, let me give you two quotes. The most famous relationship book, Men and Women from Different Planets. By the way, last time I checked, we were both from the same planet. But there's a quote where the author, John Gray, starts off his book by saying, I do not try and describe the differences between men and women. If he was able to do that, he'd taken his book a lot further in solving the problem. And then the most famous psychologist that we have today, Dr. Phil, he actually has written in his book, and I quote verbatim, in the 25 years that I've been doing work in the field of human behavior, I have seen few, if any, genuine relationship conflicts ever get solved. Let me repeat that one more time. In the 25 years that I have been doing the work in the field of human behavior, I have seen few, if any, genuine relationship conflicts ever get solved. What they're in essence saying to you, that there is nothing you can do about your marriage problems. How many like that message, that if you're on the verge of divorce, that there's nothing you can do about it? Exactly. But that is what the professionals are teaching us today. One of the biggest discoveries in what I've basically done to give you a new message on who you are as an individual and how it can influence your marriage is I've gone back to the beginning. And what I'm about to tell you, the significance of this story, is simply for you to reflect on your own past, on your own upbringing. In fact, you've all heard of Freud? Can I see a show of hands for those of you who heard of Freud? Okay. One of the interesting discoveries of the psychology industry was Freud did not actually discover his first patient. A guy by the name of Joseph Brauer did. And to be quick on this story, as an example, what Joseph Brauer basically did, there's a notion in the psychology industry of hypnosis, which is nothing more than your state of mind right before you go to sleep and right before you wake up. But Anna O basically recalled past issues from her past, and these physical defects that she had, when she recalled them, they disappeared. And let me give you my own personal story as an example. I forgave my parents when I was 25 years old. In the most important day of my life, I had an epiphany. I had an argument with a buddy. We were trying to compare who had the worst childhood. And I lost, and I won. I cried. I broke down. I had a cathartic experience. I forgave my parents. I admitted for the first time in my life that I was wrong. If you really want to solve your marriage problems, I believe the biggest key is forgiving your parents. Think back on your background, on your past, and try and realize those issues that have happened to you that are causing you your influences today. So let me quickly go with where the psychology industry is with their approach.